This is Mike speaking from IELTSAnswers.com. The purpose of today's video is to talk about the speaking test and the grading criteria. You may or may not be aware, but there's actually a public version of the grading criteria that's used to assess your speaking in the IELTS speaking test. And you can have a look at this public version in order to understand a bit about how the examiner is going to assess you in your speaking test. I'm going to talk about all four of these criteria, but today I'm going to focus on fluency and coherence. And I'm going to be comparing different levels and talking about what the difference are at different band levels in terms of fluency and coherence. So I've got a link on my speaking page if you want to have a look at this document, but I've actually put it into Word, and I'm going to be using a slightly modified version of this document in order to explain it a bit more clearly, and especially to show you the differences at each of the band scores. I'm going to talk about level 6, 7 and 8, because I think for most people they want to get a 7 or an 8. Let's say you want to get a 7, it's still good to understand what's the difference between a 6 and a 7. So I'm going to start by explaining what you need to do for a level 6 to score 6 for fluency and coherence. So let's have a look what fluency and coherence is first of all. Fluency is about your ability to speak at a normal speed without excessive hesitation, like hesitations, pausing, and restarting. Restarting is when a person starts a sentence and then they begin it again. They begin it again, repeating what they've just said, repeating what they've just said. So you want to avoid this hesitation and restarting, okay? And show a willingness to talk at length. This is why your teachers often are telling you to give extended answers, so that you're showing the examiner that you can talk at length. And then the other aspect of fluency and coherence is to do with how you develop your topic and your ability to use connectives and discourse markers. This is really starting to affect coherence more. So let's have a look at this. Coherence refers to your speaking being easy to understand. So if you're coherent, then you're easy to understand. And we can maintain this through these, which are really, this is an aspect of cohesion. Cohesion is how things connect and stick together. Now, cohesion is a critical aspect of coherence. So cohesion in terms of connectives and discourse markers helps to build coherence. But there's other aspects of coherence, especially having sentences sequenced in a logical way, so that one sentence is connected to the previous one. And then down here, linking phrases to guide your listening. I think that should be to guide your listener. To guide your listener. Let's just change that now. Okay, so when you use a word, okay, here we go. For instance, if you precede an example with the phrase, for example, this tells your listener to expect an example of the point they're making. If you use the phrase for example or for instance and then you don't give an example, instead you add another point, that would be lowering your coherence. So you want to use these phrases, but you want to use them in logical ways, and you want to sequence your ideas and your sentences in logical ways in order to have coherence. Okay, so it's really about speaking at a good speed and being easy to understand. That's what fluency and coherence is about. So let's have a look at the different levels now and see what the differences are at different band levels. Okay, and I'm trying to sort of compare aspects. So the first aspect is ability to speak at length. Now for a level 6, So obviously that's better than a level 5. Can speak at length with some effort. So a 5 would struggle to speak at length. A 6 can speak at length, but it requires some effort. The examiner will notice sometimes the candidate is struggling. They may be having to pause in order to think of the next idea or the language they need for the next idea. A 7 speaks at length without noticeable effort. So now the effort factor has reduced. The candidate is speaking at length and there's not a lot of noticeable effort involved in order to do this. For an 8 is speaking fluently, and any hesitation, any pausing is to think of ideas and not for language. So a 7 might have a little bit of hesitation mid-sentence to think of a word or grammatical structure to complete the sentence. An 8 shouldn't be doing this. An 8 should only be hesitating to think of ideas. So they might say and they're just pausing to think about what they're going to say next. Okay. 9's a native speaker, so there would only be pauses that we would expect from a native speaker. Okay, so that's the first aspect, is the amount of effort it requires to speak at length. Okay, and whether there's some effort, a noticeable effort, or basically no effort, that any pausing is only to think of ideas and not language. Okay, then we get on to the idea of coherence. Some loss of coherence due to repetition, self-correction, hesitation, repeating words or phrases, correcting. So let's say you make a mistake. I go to the bank yesterday. I went to the bank yesterday. So this is self-correction. It lowers coherence. This is why I would suggest you only self-correct if you can do it quickly. I'll give an example of quickly. I went to the bank yesterday. Went to the bank yesterday. Something like that. Or I went to the bank yesterday. That would be okay. So if you can fix something quickly and smoothly, then that's good. Otherwise, it's going to start to reduce your score for fluency and coherence. Okay, and hesitation, just pausing, struggling to think of an idea or a language for that idea and having to hesitate. And the key point is that with this repetition, self-correction or hesitation, that it's causing a loss of coherence. It's causing some difficulty for the listener, for the examiner to follow what's being said. These sort of breaks create a loss of coherence. Whereas with a 7, no loss of coherence. So there may still be some repetition, self-correction and hesitation, pausing, but it's not lowering coherence. And then with an 8, develops topics coherently and appropriately. This appropriately is quite important. Now, this is where we come into whether you respond to topics correctly. So with an 8, the examiner is expecting that you are able to be on topic with your responses. Responses are fully on topic. So that's about the topic development. Not being off topic. A 7 might be a little bit off topic. A 6 could be quite a bit off topic. But a level 8 should be directly on topic. This is particularly important in the part 3. Okay, then with a 6, now we're looking at the connectives, the words that are used to join words or phrases together, or sentences together. In addition, moreover, however, for example. We can call these kinds of things connectives or discourse markers. So a 6 has some inappropriate discourse markers or connectives, or maybe an overuse of a certain ones. Constant use of in addition and in addition. Constant use of the same connectives would be typical of a level 6 speaker. Then when we move on to a 7, we notice a wide range of discourse markers. So we don't get this restrictive use. Okay, so there's a wider range and also they're used appropriately. Then when we get over to an 8, well, this is back ready to hear that the topics are developed coherently and appropriately, that they're easy to follow. We can think of an 8 sort of being like a near-native speaker. Myself as a native speaker should be able to talk to this person in pretty much the same way as I would talk to another native speaker. I might just notice a few slight hesitations, but other than that, the conversation would be smooth and kind of seamless. It would be easy to communicate with this person. Just going back to here, it would still be easy to communicate, but there would be some parts that would be incorrect. Maybe the speaking speed wouldn't quite be as fast as here. And coming over to here, we're having no problems to communicate, but there are some breakdowns where the person I'm talking to is struggling to get across their message and maybe having to hesitate or reformulate their sentences for them to come out smoothly. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed that video and learned something. I'm going to make some more for the other grading criteria as well that I will add onto YouTube pretty much the same time that I put this video on. So I hope you find it useful. If you do, you could give it the thumbs up if you want. You're welcome to make some kind of comments. Hopefully they're positive, and positive comments do help to motivate me to make more of these videos.